Are you ready to take your Pokémon UNITE gameplay to the next level? With the latest balance patch as of December 5th, 2024, and the introduction of a Tinkaton, the meta has shifted, and now is the perfect time to rethink your strategy. Picking the right Pokemon for your role can make all the difference, whether you're climbing the ranks or just starting out. In today's video, we'll break down the current top tier Pokemon, what makes them stand out, and how they can give you the edge on the battlefield. Whether you're playing as a speedster, all-rounder, or support, we've got you covered with the best picks for every lane. Choosing the right Pokemon isn't just about picking your favorite, it's about understanding what works best in the current meta. Some Pokemon shine in the early game, while others are beasts in the late game. We'll dive into each role and tell you which Pokemon are worth your time and coins right now, so grab your controller and get ready to dominate. This tier list is going to set you up for success. Let's dive in and see who's top tier and who you might want to leave behind in the dust. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking Pokemons in Pokémon UNITE. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The Pokemons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Duraludon and Garchomp. Let's talk about two heavy hitters in Pokémon UNITE, Duraludon and Garchomp. These two might not be in the spotlight like some of the big names, but they definitely have some tricks up their sleeves. Duraludon, for example, is an absolute beast when it comes to damage output. It's a great burst attacker with some solid utility. The fact that its standard attacks hit like a truck means it can really carry your team if you get a level advantage. Plus, that passive, Heavy Metal, it makes Duraludon immune to being thrown or shoved, which is huge when you're up against Pokemon that love to bully you around. But here's the catch, while Duraludon packs a punch, it's extremely fragile. Mobility, not its strong suit either. So, if you're up against a Pokemon that can dive straight at you, Duraludon can become a sitting duck. You've got to be smart about positioning because if you get caught off guard, you're going to melt faster than an ice cream cone on a hot day. Now, let's talk about Garchomp. This guy is a true offensive powerhouse. When Garchomp starts swinging, it's hard to stop. With moves like Dragon Claw and Stomp, Garchomp can initiate fights and keep the pressure on. And once it's in its groove, it deals some insane damage with those boosted attacks. It's a great choice for objectives and those big team brawls. However, Garchomp's not all smooth sailing, its defenses are on the lower end, so in the early game, it can get bullied by faster or tankier opponents. If you don't get the chance to level up and scale, you might find yourself struggling. But once it hits its stride, watch out. Just be careful early on, because the road to power is a bit rocky. The Pokemons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Azumarill, Charizard, Cramorant, Dragonite, Greedent, Machamp, Mr. Mime, Talonflame, and Tsarina. Alright, let's get right into it. You know, sometimes in Pokémon UNITE, a Pokémon just clicks with your playstyle, and other times, you get a Pokémon that's a little tricky. They have their moments, but they also have their weaknesses. So today we're talking about the B tier Pokemon. Those that might not be the absolute best, but still pack a punch and can surprise you when you least expect it. Let's dive in, shall we? First up, we've got Azumarill, who's a monster in the early game thanks to its ability to dish out critical hits with huge power. If you start in the jungle, you'll see Azumarill zooming around, dealing massive damage and leveling up faster than most. But here's the catch, as the game progresses and those big team fights start, Azumarill's power kind of peaks. It struggles to maintain that damage output in those late game brawls, which is why it falls short of the top spots in the tier list. Still, it's an absolute terror early on. Then there's Charizard, who's like a power-up in a flame suit. It's a bruiser with an arsenal of moves that let you shift tactics on the fly. Charizard can reposition itself mid-fight, dealing serious damage while keeping you on your toes. But let's not sugarcoat it. Charizard has a weak early game. It really needs to hit those higher levels to start shining, and if you're not careful, it can easily get shut down. But hey, if you're patient and time it right, Charizard can absolutely carry you in the late game. Next, Cramorant steps up to the plate, a solid attacker that can absolutely wreck if left unchecked. With its unique dive move, Cramorant can become this unpredictable force darting in and out of combat. And when it's time to use that Unite move, Gatling Gulp Missile, watch out, it's a game changer in the right hands, but if it's caught off guard or out of position, it can struggle to keep up. Still, it has a lot of potential for those who know how to control its quirky moves. Now, let's talk about Dragonite, the ranged all-rounder you didn't know you needed. Dragonite is great for burst damage with Hyper Beam or can go full melee with Outrage. What really sets it apart is its Unite move, Draco Impact, which lets it zip across the map to help in teamfights or secure those sneaky goals. The only problem? Dragonite doesn't really hit its stride until later on in the game, so you've got to be patient and work through that awkward early phase. Once you get there though, it's smooth sailing. Greedent, oh boy, this one's a wild ride. This little guy thrives on chaos, pulling the enemy's attention to itself and being a general nuisance. With moves like Covert and Berry Belly Flop, Greedent is surprisingly tough to take down. Plus, the constant health regen makes it an even bigger pain to deal with. But here's the thing, Greedent's gameplay isn't for the faint of heart. Its mechanics are pretty complex, and you'll need some serious skill to make the most of it. But if you've got the patience, Greedent can absolutely turn the tide of a match. Then there's Machamp. Machamp's a total powerhouse once it gets rolling, thanks to buffs and immunities that let it run wild. In a 1v1, Machamp is terrifying, and its moves can shred enemies in an instant. But here's the catch, it needs a flawless early game to really take control, otherwise it's just a big target for the enemy to focus on. If you get that early advantage though, Machamp can be a true game changer. Mr. Mime, once a top tier pick, is now in the B tier, but that doesn't mean it's slacking. Thanks to a rework, Mr. Mime has found a new life in the game. Its tricky moves still hold their charm, and with some finesse, you can still pull off some insane plays. The improvements to its kit have given it a lot more versatility and ways to impact the game. It's no longer as dominant as before, but Mr. Mime still deserves respect for its ability to outplay opponents when used right. Finally, Talonflame rounds out our list. This speedy bird is all about mobility and burst damage. Talonflame can dive in and out of fights, picking off targets before they even know what hit them. It's especially notorious for swooping in and stealing Zapdos out of nowhere. Talk about a game stealer. But here's the kicker, Talonflame's a glass cannon. It can deal insane damage, but if you're not careful, it'll fall apart quickly. One misstep and you're going down. And last but not least, we've got Serena, the queen of sustained pressure. With moves like Trop Kick and Stomp, Serena can keep herself alive while dishing out serious damage. Add in her Unite move, Queen Ascendant, and she's a force to be reckoned with. It's one of the best single target disables in the game, making Serena a nightmare for anyone who gets caught in her grasp. And there you have it, our rundown of the B tier Pokemon in Pokémon UNITE. Not quite top tier, but definitely worth your time if you can master their strengths and cover their weaknesses. Have any favorites from the list, or maybe you disagree with where they rank? Let me know in the comments. The Pokemons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Absol, Aegislash, Buzzwole, Cinderace, Decidueye, Delphox, Dodrio, Dragapult, Eldegoss, Phalanx, Gengar, Glaceon, Gudra, Greninja, Gyarados, Lapras, Lucario, Mamoswine, Mega Mewtwo X, Metagross, Sableye, Caesar, Surtlax, Tinkaton, Tyranitar, Wigglytuff, and Zeraora. Alright folks, let's talk about some of the absolute legends in Pokémon UNITE that are cruising through the A tier. These Pokemon might not be at the top of the food chain, but they're not far behind. If you're looking for powerful choices that can give your team a real boost, you've come to the right place. First up, we've got Absol, the ultimate assassin. This Pokemon is all about speed, crits, and dishing out some serious physical damage. With moves like Midnight Slash, Absol is always a slippery character, zipping around the battlefield. While it shines in the early and mid game, it starts to struggle in the late game when opponents are a bit tougher. But hey, if you're looking to take down squishy targets quickly, Absol is your go-to. Then there's Aegislash, which is like the Swiss Army knife of Pokemon UNITE. Aegislash can flex between offense and defense like no other. It switches between sword and shield forms, letting you adjust your playstyle on the fly. Mastering its complex moveset can take some time, but once you do, you'll be an absolute powerhouse. You'll be outplaying your opponents left and right, and that versatility is key. Moving on, Buzzwole is another beast to look out for. This all-rounder brings both power and control to the table with its unique abilities like Superpower and Smackdown. It can disable opponents while dishing out heavy damage, making it a huge threat in close-range brawls. Buzzwole might not be the best in long-range fights, but when it's up close, it's a nightmare for the enemy team. If you're looking for a late-game powerhouse, Cinderace has you covered. This Pokemon's rapid attack speed and critical hit potential make it an ideal carry when the game reaches its final stages. it can melt through objectives like Zapdos or Dreadnought with ease. The only downside? Cinderace is a bit fragile, so you've got to play carefully in the early stages while it builds up power, but when it gets rolling, look out. Then there's Decidueye, which can be a real game changer if you leave it unchecked. With Spirit Shackle, Decidueye can poke enemies from a distance, all while dealing massive damage. It's one of the best Pokemon for sniping and taking out objectives quickly. The downside? Lack of mobility. If you get caught by a Pokemon that can dash or teleport, it's game over, so you'll need to keep your distance and play it smart. Now, Delphox might just surprise you. It's not your typical attacker, this one's got a little bit of everything. From its offensive moves like Mystical Fire to its defensive tools like Fire Spin, Delphox is a versatile pick that can adapt to many playstyles. Fanciful Fireworks is especially impactful in team fights, debuffing enemies and turning the tide in your favor. It's a great choice for players who love flexibility. If you're into speedsters, Dodrio is basically the definition of a speed demon. With its sprint mechanic, Dodrio can zoom across the map, constantly putting pressure on the enemy team. It's all about fast plays and getting in, scoring those quick goals and getting out. But it's fragile, so you'll need quick reflexes and great positioning to maximize Dodrio's potential. Lastly, let's talk about Dragapult, which brings that sleek, speedy gameplay to the table. With its Phantom Force ability, Dragapult can make quick escapes and dish out some serious damage with its unique charge-based Unite move. This Pokemon thrives on speed and precision, making it a dangerous foe if you let it get too many knockouts. It might take some practice to master, but once you do, Dragapult can completely turn the game in your favor. So there you have it folks, A-tier Pokemon that are ready to shake things up in Pokémon UNITE. Whether you're looking to deal massive damage, control the battlefield, or play a more supportive role, these picks have got you covered. The Pokemons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Alolan Ninetales, Blastoise, Blaziken, Ceruledge, Chandelure, Clefable, Comfey, Crustle, Espeon, Gardevoir, Ho-Oh, Hooper, Inteleon, Mega Mewtwo Y, Meowscarada, Mew, Pikachu, Sylveon, Trevenant, Umbreon, Urshifu, Venusaur, and Zoroark. Let's talk about some of the absolute powerhouses in Pokémon UNITE that will totally change the course of your game. These Pokémon are not just good, they're game changers. They have that perfect blend of offense, defense, and pure versatility that can make all the difference in your team's success. If you're aiming to get that win, you'll definitely want to keep these legends in your roster. Take Alolan Ninetales for example. It's the perfect balance of support and damage. With moves like Aurora Veil, it can dish out some decent damage while offering much needed protection to your teammates. Plus, if you combo its moves right, you can freeze enemies in place and deal serious burst damage. However, things do get a little trickier in the late game as it can struggle to keep up with the tougher opponents. But hey, if you play it smart, you'll make it work. Then we have Blastoise, the king of crowd control. I mean, the guy's got it all. Damage, tankiness, and huge area control with its Hydro Typhoon. It's a defender that's got range, so it can take on enemies from a distance and then just spin and blast its way through with Rapid Spin and Water Spout. The only catch? You need to wait until level 9 for Blastoise to really show what it's capable of, but once it does, you're in for a treat. Next up is the blazing brawler himself, Blaziken. If you love combo heavy gameplay, Blaziken will feel like home. It's all about juggling your moves and constantly switching it up. With its ability Blaze, Blaziken deals extra damage while staying mobile and self-sustained. But as fun as it is to play, it does take some practice to fully master. If you're up for the challenge though, you'll be rewarded with insane damage output. And let's not forget about Ceruledge, the Phantom Blade. This brawler can turn the tide of battle with its ability to deal true damage and ignore shields. Ceruledge is also capable of buffing itself to become a powerhouse in teamfights, especially with its Unite move, which can stun multiple opponents at once. The catch? It requires some serious skill to really maximize its potential, so if you're up for the challenge, Ceruledge can be your new best friend. Switching gears to the support side, we've got Clefable. This one's all about keeping your team alive and throwing some disruption into the mix. Moves like Moonlight and Draining Kiss keep your allies healthy, while Moonblast can really mess up enemy plans. While Clefable might not have the highest damage output, the healing and support it offers can be the difference between a win and a loss. Plus, who doesn't love a bit of moon magic? Speaking of support, let's talk about Comfey, the pocket supporter. This little Pokemon has a unique mechanic where it attaches to an ally and becomes immune to damage. While attached, it can heal, shield, and even disable opponents. It's a different playstyle than most, which means if your teammate is good, you're in for a great time. But if your partner's a bit iffy, Comfey's potential can take a hit. Still, when played right, it can be a game changer. Now, let's get into some serious offense with Gardevoir. This psychic powerhouse can dish out some of the highest burst damage in the game. With its synchronized ability, Gardevoir can hit opponents hard and fast, and its Unite move, Psychic, is a crowd control beast. The downside, it's a glass cannon, meaning you'll need to keep your distance or risk getting wiped out before you even get a chance to use your big moves, but with the right positioning, it can absolutely melt enemies. Lastly, we have Ho-Oh, the Guardian of the Skies. This legendary is a true all-rounder. It can deal serious damage from the start, and is still a threat late in the game. But what really makes Ho-Oh special is its Unite move, Rekindling Flame, which revives allies during crucial moments. That's right, not only can it help you win fights, but it can also turn the tide by bringing back fallen teammates. Talk about a clutch play. So, if you're looking for some serious power in Pokémon Unite, these S-tier Pokémon are your go-to picks. They've got everything you need, from insane damage and crowd control to supportive abilities that can turn the game around. Choose wisely and you'll be well on your way to victory. The Pokémons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Armarouge Blissey, Darkrai, Leafeon, Mimikyu, Miraidon, Psyduck, Slowbro, and Zacian. Alright, let's talk about some of the absolute powerhouses in Pokémon Unite. These Pokémon aren't just strong, they're game changers. I'm talking about the ones you definitely want on your team if you're looking to crush the competition. So, grab your controller, sit back, and let's dive into the SS tier. First up, we've got Armarouge, the teamfight attacker that's all about that sweet area damage. Seriously, this Pokemon can clear crowds like it's nothing. If you want to debuff or stun opponents while dishing out big hits, Armarouge has got your back. It also shines against Sifar Atke's focused Pokemon, thanks to its ability, Flash Fire. But here's the catch, its durability is pretty low, and when it goes for moves like Armor Cannon or Fire Spin, it can get itself into some seriously vulnerable positions. But hey, that's the price for being a damage dealer, right? Next, we've got Blissey, aka the perfect support. Blissey is like the ultimate healer in Pokémon Unite now. With the highest HP stat in the game, it can dish out healing, shielding, buffing, and debuffing all at once. If you've ever struggled against burst damage Pokemon, Blissey's your best friend. Just keep in mind that Blissey relies heavily on sticking with a teammate. It's not going to do too well on its own. Stick it with a good team, and Blissey will keep you alive through anything. Then there's Darkrai, who's been given a whole new lease on life in version 1.96.27. This speedster is a bit different from the rest, focusing on a sleep-based strategy. Darkrai's ability, Bad Dreams, really comes into play when it gets its enemies to sleep, turning those nap times into a nightmare for them. It's one of the more tricky Pokemon to master, but when you nail it, Darkrai can melt through enemies faster than you can say night-night. Leafeon is the next big hitter on our list. This speedster is all about speed and damage. With dash moves and the extra movement from its ability, Chlorophyll, it zooms around the map like a blur. But what really makes Leafeon stand out is its insane burst damage potential. If you love playing assassins that can quickly take out targets, Leafeon's the one you want on your squad. Plus, as an evolution, Leafeon scales really well as the game goes on, so it just keeps getting better. Mimikyu is up next, and this Pokemon might look a little quirky at first glance, but trust me, it's deadly. As an all-rounder, Mimikyu is deceptively strong. Its moves and ability give it an edge in tricky situations, and with its balanced stats, it's hard to find a Pokemon that can truly counter it. If you like Pokemon that can adapt to different situations and keep the enemy guessing, Mimikyu's your guy. Let's talk about Miraidon now. This electric powerhouse can fit into different roles depending on its moveset, making it one of the more versatile attackers in the game. If you teach it Charge Beam, it'll play the typical damage-dealing attacker role, but give it Electro Drift and suddenly it's zooming across the battlefield like a speedster. Either way, Miraidon hits hard, and while it's got a high skill ceiling, its damage output makes it well worth the effort. Psyduck might seem like a bit of an odd choice for a supporter, but don't let its cuteness fool you. It packs a punch. Psyduck's crowd control abilities make it a real nuisance in fights, and its higher than average durability for a supporter makes it stand out from the crowd. If you like playing as a supporter that can actually take a hit while still being a pain for the enemy team, Psyduck is definitely worth considering. And last but not least, we've got Slowbro. This defender is a single target disabler that can just wreck opponents with its crowd control abilities. Telekinesis is a game changer, and paired with Slowbro's incredible durability, it can really turn the tide of battle. Sure, Slowbro isn't the greatest at dealing damage, but when it comes to keeping enemies out of the fight and giving your team the upper hand, Slowbro's the king of that game. And there you have it. These SS tier Pokemon are the ones you'll want to keep an eye on. Whether you're looking for damage, healing, or disruption, they've got everything you need to dominate in Pokémon UNITE. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.